So are you ready to knit your first project? Well, here it is. A scarf using the garter stitch. So let's take a look at this and get started. This is a garter stitch scarf. Like I said, this is my favorite type of stitch to use to make scarves. It makes a nice dense fabric, nice warm fabric to use. So this pattern is very customizable to your specifications. So whatever yarn you choose, you'll pick whatever corresponding needles go with it, and then you can adjust the pattern accordingly. This one was originally made with a bulky weight yarn. You can see how thick that yarn is there. But it can be made with any type of yarn. Just the smaller the yarn that you're using, the more stitches you're going to need. So whatever one you've chosen, that's what we'll do. Now, scarves are typically as long as you are tall. So if you're going to be wearing this and you are 5'9", then you will make your scarf 69 inches long. I typically like mine a little longer. I usually take mine to be about 6 feet long just because I like to wrap them around my neck a couple of times. But however the length, you'll just knit it until it gets to that length and then you will stop. Okay? So let's figure out how many stitches we're going to need based on the yarn that we are using. Okay? To do this, we're going to have to do a little bit of math. So let me grab some paper and a pen and I'll be right back. So to figure out how many stitches we need to cast on, we need to look at the yarn that we purchased here, okay? Now, scarves are typically around 6 to 7 inches wide. So if we want our scarf to be 6 inches wide, we need to look at what the gauge is according to our label. This will tell us right here. The one that has the picture of the 2 knitting needles is for knitting. They also have a gauge for crocheters as well. This tells us if we cast on 20 stitches and we knit for 26 rows with this particular yarn, we will get a 4 inch by 4 inch block. Okay? So that tells me I have 20 stitches per 4 inches. Okay, if I divide 4 into 20, that tells me I have 5 stitches per inch. So if I want this scarf to be 6 inches, I take 6 times the 5 stitches per inch, and that tells me that I need 30 stitches to get my 6 inch scarf. So I would cast on 30 stitches then. Alright? So I'm going to show you with a scarf that I've already been working on. This is a scarf that I've been making with just some scrap yarn. I've been taking out my scrap pieces and putting them together, which is going to show you how here in a few minutes how we can add new yarn as well. So for this pattern, I've cast on the appropriate number of stitches according to whatever my label of my yarn said here, my math that I figured up. And we're going to knit on both sides. Do the knit stitch on the front side and the back side, back and forth. Okay? So for this pattern, we're going to do something a little tricky here in the very beginning. To give us a nice finished edge, what I like to do is my first stitch, I'm not going to knit it. I'm going to just slip it over to the other needle. So to do that, I'm just going to stick it through the yarn like I would be knitting it, but instead of wrapping it and pulling up another loop, I'm just going to stick the yarn in, or stick the needle in the yarn, slide it over, and then continue knitting across the row. Okay, on my very last stitch, ordinarily for the knit stitch I would put it through from front to back, wrap the yarn, pull up a loop, and slide it over. What I'm going to do for this final one is something called knit through the back loop. What that means is you see your yarn here, there's a front loop and a back loop. It's all really the same loop that loops around, but we have the front half and the back half. To knit through the back loop, instead of putting my yarn from front to back, I'm going to kind of turn it around and put it through sideways. You can see that through the back of the yarn. Wrap it, pull it up, and then slide it off the needle that way. That causes your stitch to become twisted, but that gives you a nice, pretty braided edge kind of look here along the side as you go up. You don't have to do that by all means. You can just knit every stitch like I showed you before to get your garter stitch fabric. That is perfectly fine. I just do it this way because I like the way that edge turns out there on the side. Now, if you're coming to the end of your ball of yarn, like I am here, because this was a scrap piece, to attach a new piece, you can either attach a new color or attach the same color if you're just working on the same color scarf all the way up. Here's an easy way to attach your yarn. This is called the invisible knot. Take your yarn, the one that's attached to your project, lay it down, facing this way. Take your other yarn, lay it down next to it. Get it up in the camera here, facing the other direction here. Okay. I'm then going to take this yarn and tie it around my original yarn. And just tie just a little knot, just a basic knot around it. Then I'm going to take this other end and tie it around this yarn. Tie it up there. So I have something that looks like this. Okay. Then I'm going to take each end of this and basically just pull it. And these knots will slide down until they meet each other. And then all I have to do is take my scissors and trim off these little ends. And just trim it off right up next to the knot. Being careful not to actually cut your knot. And then that knot will just get lost in your knitting. It works particularly well with garter stitch since we do have these bumpy rows. Your knot will get lost in there and you'll never even see it. So now that I've done that, I've got a new color attached. I can just continue knitting like I always did, and it will just start the new color. Now, if you are wanting to make stripes by doing this, be forewarned, it will not make even stripes. There's another technique for that we can look at later on. What this does to make stripes, if you notice in this here, there are stripes, but they're not even. One color kind of bleeds into the other, and they're kind of jagged on the edges as they go up through. But I don't mind that. I kind of like that look. It's kind of a, you know, scrappy, rugged kind of look to it, so I kind of like that. So that's it. That's your challenge. You are going to knit your first project, a garter stitch scarf, using whatever kind of yarn you want, whatever size needles fit that yarn. And once you've done that, you should have the knit stitch pretty much mastered by that time. Remember, it should be around 6 to 7 inches wide, and however long you are tall, or however long you want your scarf to be. If you want it really long, keep on going until you're satisfied. So once you get your scarf started, or finished even, share your pictures with me. Leave a comment sharing your picture. Show me how yours turned out. I'd be curious to see how it goes. Let me know how it went, if you enjoyed the tutorial or not, and I guess I will see you in the next video. Bye. Ooh, a cookie.